separate information.
Recording in
Mr. Dwyer?
progress.
Okay, first on the list is Mr. Michael Fenton. Attorney Michael Fenton.
He's probably an observer.
There we go. Hi. Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Well, if you give me the appropriate permissions, I would like to share my screen. My name is Attorney Michael Fenton. I'm a shareholder at Schatz, Schwartz and Fenton in Springfield. Our address is 1441 Main Street, Suite 1100, Springfield, Mass. I'm here tonight on behalf of Selco Partnership, our client, doing business as Verizon Wireless, and to submit an application for special permit review for the installation of antennas and related equipment at the Hampton Inn located at the property commonly referred to as 350 Russell Street. So let me see. I'm going to share my screen here.
You should be all set.
Thank you. All right, can you see that, my screen?
Yep.
Okay, so our application, probably the best thing to show you just as sort of a preview, we're not gonna, I know this isn't the full hearing. This is our site. And these are the existing conditions based on the proposed antenna installation and related equipment. When we're done, there'll be an installation that looks like that, appropriately screening the equipment from all view sheds. And there's another similar visual here where you can see the two extensions above the roof line, not going above the 5 feet that's required under the bylaw. So that's what it'll look like when we're done.
We are not seeing your, we're not seeing your, what you're seeing, I guess.
Oh.
We're just seeing the aerial rendering with the photo locations.
Okay, let me try it again. Huh. Okay. You know,
13.
yeah, I think a better way to do this will be to do it this way. Can you see it this? Yeah, this isn't the best because it's a preview screen, but you'll get the feel for it. These are the existing conditions. And then when you go to the next slide, you'll see right up here is the extension of the roof line with the RF friendly enclosure for the antennas. And then a similar image down here, you'll see on the second, the installation of those two RF friendly enclosures on the rooftop. And again, neither of them extend 5 feet above the roof line, which is the bylaw requirement. And there'll be no negative visual impact in the area. In terms of what our application packet will include, these are the items.
Can I interrupt you?
Yes.
I may have misread, but I thought that the plans said that one was 5 foot and one was 7 feet tall.
We will verify that, but they may be 7 feet tall, but not 7 feet above the existing roof line.
Okay.
Be happy to take a closer look at that for you during the hearing.
I believe the one, the southern one closer to Route 9 was 7 feet. But you're saying that that's not 7 feet above the roof.
It may be 7 feet above a lower roof line from where the installation is. The roof is not all
Okay.
Of each level above the ground.
Agreed. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. And this is our packet of materials that have been submitted to the chair electronically, and would love an opportunity to present with our full complement of our consultants and Verizon team at your next available hearing in February. And would be happy to submit whatever documentation you require by in print form.
When did you mail that stuff around, Mr. Dwyer?
It came in it was either just before or just after Christmas. Let me see if I can identify it.
There was a bunch of stuff on the 21st. I don't know if that was when this came in.
Oh, here we go. I found it, 350 Brussels. Okay. All right, never mind.
So this is Michael is really before us this evening to make his presentation in a preliminary form, and he will submit his application so we can have the formal hearing, correct?
Yes, yeah, this is, yes.
Okay, and in the past, we've asked for a peer review for wireless towers, in as much as that it appears that the activity is coming from a college that is just to the east of the Hadley line, and part of it is in Hadley, and evidently they will not accept any phone towers there, so they seem to be moving into Hadley, and we have the big one, which is right behind Liquors 44 there, and then of course we have the one on River Drive in North Hadley, and then we have the one in the police station. And I'm wondering, boy, it seems like Hadley is over-towered and Amherst is under-towered. So is that the reason? We're just, Hadley is getting more towers because UMass is not allowing them? Michael, that question is for you.
No, that would not, that's not the reason.
Why does UMass allow towers?
I believe there are wireless installations at the UMass Amherst campus, yes.
Probably,
But I do not have that information in front of me tonight.
but so the question is, do we need a peer review to make these technical observations and questions, or are we just going to wing it with our authority that we have on board with the 5 members?
Well, I mean, what are we going to review is the question.
Well, why are we getting the tower in Hadley when you have one that's probably less than a quarter of a mile away, and then you have the other one at the police safety complex, then you have another one on River Drive in North Hadley. That's a lot of towers in close proximity.
Michael, do you have is there a map of Hadley and Amherst that shows the coverage of the towers, or?
There is, and I am not an RF radio frequency expert, but
Because I know I was coming up South Maple around the silos, and I kept dropping a call. And I'm Verizon, so I'm not disputing what Mr. Zagranik says. I'm just, if we have an excess of towers, how come I didn't have service? Maybe Joe was using up all my bandwidth.
well, we do have, as a part of our presentation, an alternative sites analysis that's required by the bylaw, as well as testimony from our radio frequency expert in a engineering necessity case that lies out the explanation for why this tower is needed. And I would just remind the board that we are talking about an existing building and antennas on a rooftop. So the tower term, I'd have to take a closer look at the bylaws to see if that fits a technical definition of tower under the Hadley bylaws. but we're not talking about a tower in the traditional sense. We're talking about antennas on an existing rooftop that will be screened from all visual impact.
And in contrast to prior applications from Verizon, this one is actually in the designated wireless district.
I
Is
knew,
this for- is
I
this
knew
a
that's
for-
what it was, but all I'm asking is that, are we going to individually compete? Or are we gonna trust their engineer for giving us the facts as presented? So. But it is in the designated area. Yes, I do realize that,
Yep.
Bill. Thank you.
Given that it is a structure mount and not a tower, think it's mainly, I'm comfortable without doing peer review because there's really nothing to review. It's not going to have any drainage impact. It's not going to have any, no, it's not going to have any unexpected impacts that I can visualize.
Well, the peer review last time was why Hadley and why the location, and they had the, the concentric circles where you could potentially drop a call or where it was needed. So a tower was needed here because, but
I think that's in their presentation anyway.
I'm sure it will be.
I would, if I could, I would pose a question to Jim and Bill or anyone else on the board who can answer it. But if they're going to approach this additional structure on the roof as an antenna, and that gives them certain height freedoms, but they're enclosing it in something that is more aesthetically pleasing, are we in kind of a, catch-22 that they're actually adding a structure which should be under the roof height?
Now that is addressed to the definitions that we do not count spires, antennas,
And walls which conceal antennas?
haven't seen one of those before.
Yeah. That seems like what they're doing here. And I'm just afraid if we approve this, someone else will say, well, I was going to put a third story on because you let Verizon build wall in a corner.
The wording is such that it can, certain things can go higher.
Okay,
And
we have some latitude.
we do.
Okay, thank you.
Is this, Mr. Fenton, Attorney Fenton, is this 4G or 5G?
I would have to defer that, answering that question to the radio frequency engineer. And the reason,
Why
and the
they're
reason-
adding more 4G and when 5G is the wave of the new designs?
it just having been around testimony and participated in conversations around that question, sir, in the past, the reason that it's more complicated than I can answer is because an antenna that is deployed for 4G today isn't necessarily an antenna that can't be, or equipment that can't be deployed for 5G tomorrow. There are changes that can be made that would allow for those coverages to change. And it's a complicated question to answer that really an engineer should give you that answer, not a lawyer.
Okay, there's a Verizon tower not far away. They need another one this close. Is that because of usage or what? Why is it? I'm not against this. I'm just asking questions. You know?
It would be data and voice usage, yes. And these installations take quite a bit of time and money to deploy. Verizon does not place them haphazardly. They're very significant investments. And before the company proceeds with a filing of this type, they have exhausted all other options on their existing infrastructure. So they're expensive to put up. And when the company does it, it's because they see a need to improve data and voice coverage in a way that meets the demands of their customers.
Okay.
Could you scroll down There were some elevations of those. And I just had some questions on the,
Are you talking about the photo simulations or the zoning drawings?
it was in the drawings that we received last week. Yeah, it was that set. Let me see, somewhere there were elevations. Maybe it's sheet 7.
Yeah. I'm gonna stop sharing for a second and then reshare because for some reason, when I open up a file, you can't see it. You can only see it when I do it in a preview pane. So just give me 1 second here.
Okay.
While you are not sharing, I will jump in to share something from the zoning bylaw to your point, Mark, section 4.3.3, limitations of height shall not apply in any district to chimneys, cooling towers, elevator bulkheads, skylights, ventilators, electronic equipment, elevator shafts, other necessary appurtenances usually carried above the roof, and if not used for human occupancy, towers, spires, or other ornamental features.
Wow. We must have had some smart members back then when they put that in. That's perfect.
And also it's in the business district, so it's a 42-foot height limitation and 3 stories. So I will stop sharing.
That's perfect. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Very good. Okay, now you can see this PDF, right? Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
So here, this is the elevation.
Yeah, so if you zoom in, all right, this is antennas and RRH within, right? I think it's maybe from the other, are there 2 sheets of elevations?
Yeah, I think there's another, but this one's saying 5 feet above. And
Yep.
then the west elevation and then the east elevation. Yeah, it's showing 7 feet here, I think. Is this what you're referring to?
Well, yeah, and so also I was noticing on there are 3 vertical rectangles that I'm not clear to me what those are. Are those windows? Are those signs? Are those lights?
Those would be the antennas before the implementation of the radio frequency transparent enclosure.
Okay, so it's showing them, but they would actually be beyond.
They'd be wrapped. They'd be wrapped, right?
Okay.
So they would appear.
More like that. Got it. Okay.
And so that appears to be 41 feet. And maximum height of a building in that district is 42 feet. So
It's compliant.
it is not in excess of what is permitted anyway.
Right. Okay. And as you said before, it's only 3.8 feet above the higher roof. So, right. Okay.
Yep.
And this one is 5 feet with a total height of 48 feet, which is in excess of the 42, but the 42, is the 42 include the appurtenances and all that?
No, the 42, the appurtenances are excluded from the 42.
Gotcha. And so his height there is 43.5?
43.8, but that's the parapet.
So the roof is lower than the parapet and compliant. Well, that's, the parapet's already there, right? So I think that's water over the dam.
So if there's anything else you'd like to see in the packet, would be happy to run through it with you. But as I said earlier, we have we'll have our full complement of our team at the next available meeting. Again, I don't know why I have to stop sharing and then reshare.
Attorney Fenton, you want to schedule a public hearing tonight, I'm assuming.
Yes, we would like that.
Okay, we can give you Tuesday, February 7th. Provided, I will email you the application form. You will need to return a signed application form and 2 sets of mailing labels of abutters by the 14th of February. And it has to go to the planning board in town of Hadley office.
You mean the 14th of January?
The 14th, I'm sorry, 14th, yeah, no. The 10th of January, 16th of January. 1, 2,
Right, so that we meet our statutory notifications.
1, 2. Yes, if you get me by the 16th of January, the 2 sets of mailing labels of abutters and the completed application form, we will schedule the meeting for February 7th. If I don't get them by the 16th, we'll have to act accordingly.
You will have them by the 16th, and how best to get those materials to you and the town?
If you just, I'm gonna email, the email we have on file is SSOBEY. That's who gave the information to Mr. Dwyer.
That's my associate. You can use that. Yes.
Okay, I will email him the application form. Fill it out and return that form with the mailing labels to the town hall in Hadley. And just email me when you've mailed them out, when you've got them, either delivered them or whatever it is, and I will pick them up and you'll be all set.
Okay, and the town will mail the notices and,
I mail the notices.
okay. And for the newspaper notice, does the town invoice us? Are we responsible for that?
Nope, that'll be part of the application fee.
Okay,
Once I get the way we do the fees, we used to have a flat fee. However, the legal notices in the Gazette have been going up and up and up. And the application fee that we used to charge didn't even come close to the fee for the legal newspaper. So what I've been doing is notify the newspaper, this is the legal ad. They give me a price. We add 10% for town surcharge, and that's the price you'll pay. The Gazette fee plus mailings plus 10%.
okay,
Okay, I mean, cost of the basically cost of the stamps plus 10%.
and for participation in the hearing on the 7th, are there any requirements for submission of materials in advance? I think we've submitted almost everything that we would intend to present.
Yeah, I think everything you've given tonight it would be adequate.
Yeah, I did have that discussion with your associate. I think I asked that there be 4 full-size paper copies
Oh, yeah.
delivered to town hall. One will be for the planning board file. One will be for the town clerk to have for anyone who wants to look at it. And then both DPW and police fire like to have a paper set of plans.
Okay,
And then we do want an electronic filing, which I think you have provided us. And we will still be meeting by Zoom. So just make sure whatever your computer you're using for presentation doesn't hang up on you like this did.
right, we will do that. Okay, so we will comply with all those items. And if the board would be willing to provide some type of indication at this time as to whether or not it would be interested in a peer review, that would be helpful, so that if it will require it, we can endeavor to get that started.
I'm kind of leaning toward Mr. Dwyer. I don't really think this needs a peer review because of all the reasons Mr. Dwyer said that, even our peer reviewer is not an expert as far as needs go. So if Verizon say they need this, it would be insanely expensive to try to verify that need. I'm not even sure we could get the information. A lot of it may be proprietary to Verizon. So,
I go along with that, Jim, and my feelings aren't hurt, but I just kind of wanted to throw that out, especially to the newer members who realize that probably we didn't do that in the past, but just that it is available to us if needed.
okay. I just emailed your associate the application form. So it's pretty simple too. You can print it out and put it in with a package like Mr. Dwyer said.
Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Fenton.
All right, thank you very much. We'll see you on the 7th.
So next person I have up was identified as Duncan in order of appearance.
Oh, is that Mr. Ferguson?
I don't know.
Are you there, Mr. Duncan?
Didn't you circulate an email?
We did. So
Must have stepped away.
must have stepped away.
There he is.
Oh, he's unmuted.
Mr.
Yeah.
Duncan?
Hello?
Hello, you're up. What have you got for the planning board?
I don't see my video. I don't see my video for some reason. Do you see me?
No, we just see your name.
I don't know why that is. Press view.
Should authorize video at the bottom left.
Share screen.
No.
if that does anything.
There you go.
There you are.
Am I on?
Yes.
Okay.
This was the sign for Wansik Nursery,
Yes. Wanzik Nurseries.
or is it? the
No, I'm sorry.
Wansik
Wanzik Produce.
Produce, right?
Different business.
What was the address on that, Mr. Ferguson?
What's the sign for again?
Wanzik Produce.
Oh,
And,
Wansick Produce, okay.
and what is the street address?
180 Russell Street.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Not to be confused with the Wansick Evergreen. That's down there, separate cousins, if you would.
They're related, but
Yeah, they're cousins.
different business, yes.
Walter and Mike, well, Walter's passed away, but
Yeah,
Mike Jr. and Walt Jr. are cousins.
yes.
Okay,
And your sign was 56 square feet, I believe. I want to say it was 3.5 by 16.
Yes. 3.5 by 16.
externally illuminated on the building,
On the doors or on the building?
on the building,
On the building, yes.
It was on the barn, I think, right? Yeah.
yeah. On the old Wansick, the Walt Wansick's warehouse there. in
Yeah,
back.
there was
Yeah.
a big sign there, then it came down. Now, this is going to be in the exact same place on the east end, but I thought
Pretty much.
when the message.
No.
was
Do you see the picture?
On the
Do you
door.
not have a picture of the sign on the building?
Do you have one? Show.
Yes. Yeah, we got it. Where is it?
Let's see. When did I send that around? Thursday, the 29th.
Yep.
What was the street address again? 170?
180.
Russell Street.
Okay.
Must be this one.
Are you able to share your, the product from your screen?
I don't believe so. I don't know how to do that. I mean, I sent everything around and
Yeah.
Yeah, and I send everything around, but we like to look at it while we're here, and I'll see if I can pull it up.
okay.
I've got it up on my screen if you want me to share, Bill.
I have, I
Okay.
think this is,
There it is.
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah, the old one was above the warehouse, Joe. This is on the garage.
yes, yes, there was a sign on the east, but that's been taken down, so,
Yes.
this is
Oh,
the.
yeah, that's long ago.
Yes. Not so long ago.
So this is kitty corner to ESB.
No, this is, remember when,
Yes.
this is right across
that's
almost
true.
from the climbing.
No, I think this is
Right.
next to the library,
Outdoor
No, he was
service.
right.
to the
You were
post.
right originally. It's kitty corner to E ESB.
Yeah, it's across from the post office where it's adjacent to where Exotic Motors was torn down, right?
Yes,
Yes.
yes,
And usually the strawberries and stuff are out in front of it.
Right,
Correct.
yes.
Yeah.
Very true.
okay, so the sign dimensions are within the parameters we're looking for.
Yes, it's
Uh,
under 64 square feet and it's under 10% of the building surface.
The lighting, is there going to be any lighting?
We're not proposing any at this time.
Sounds good, then. Move approval.
I'm in support. If someone wants to make, if Mr. Dwyer wants to make him,
I'll make a motion to approve the sign design.
Thank you very much.
I would second that.
We have a motion.
I'm
and a
sure
second.
the Wanziks will appreciate that.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes, I believe Mr. Sarzinski is not here, so 4-0 with one absent. Mr. Sarzinski absent.
Great. Thank you very much.
I wonder if we should be able to afford a private plane for Mike so that he could attend our meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Ferguson. It looks like an interesting niche you've gotten into with the farm signs.
Oh, thank you. Hey, Randy, how you doing?
So,
I'm good, Duncan.
Hey, good to see you.
I have Christine Keith next.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ferguson.
Christine Keith.
Does Mr. Duncan, does Mr. Ferguson have to go to
Oh, well, it's not,
the building department now?
Yes, I already have an application in.
Okay.
So with your approval, I will put that application through and pay the fee.
Sure.
we'll notify the building department of our vote.
Thank you very much. Good evening.
Night.
Good evening.
So.
Who's next, Mr. Dwyer, again?
The name is Christine Keith, but it's a gentleman with a beard about my shade of
Okay.
white.
It's not Christine Keith, it's John Sibley. I don't know how that got confused.
That's what shows up on your
Yeah,
picture.
I don't,
Whoever's computer you stole.
exactly.
Okay. And I
Anyway.
think you may have some other people here as well.
Yep.
This is John Sibley's meeting, not mine.
Okay,
Yeah, he signed on it, or we did, that's all.
okay.
Before Mr. Sibley.
So he,
You are breaking up badly.
Your microphone is cutting in and out.
We sometimes find we have better success with Zoom if you turn off your video and still talk.
Okay, can you hear me now?
That is much better.
Yes.
Okay. So, I'm John Sibley, and, we're at 3 Birch Meadow Drive, and we'd like to have our street accepted by the town. We'd like to know what we need to do to start that process.
We need, one of the things we need is accurate as-built plans.
Okay,
And to be honest with you, I don't know how you're gonna be able to do that because you probably heard of the story of a few years ago where somebody was digging on your street to do some kind of a location of a, I believe, a water line or an electric line. And according to all the plans, they were digging in a safe area and they struck either electricity or water. And it wasn't supposed to be there.
Jim, Randy is aboard. I think Randy was the one that was going to do the as-built plan. Maybe he has it.
We never did one, Joe.
Okay,
I looked in my files, I didn't find anything, so I don't know what, I guess they must be using the original plans when they were digging, but I don't know the answer to that.
So interestingly, I was speaking with Scott McCarthy, who is the DPW director, this afternoon, and he said they have an as-built plan.
Oh, oh,
Really?
Well, I hope it's not mine, because I can't find it in my office. I'll
hang on
call
a sec.
Scott tomorrow.
He said the file was too big to send, but he did send me another plan that they were working from. Let me see if I can pull that up.
So I'm here to just to listen in on this, you know, on John's behalf. So we need there's gonna need to be an as-built plan that is satisfactory to the DPW director, is that correct?
Yeah, and the planning board. Okay, hang on, let me do a screen share here and see if I can make some sense of this. Unfortunately, it's the one I'm working from is, see if I can get that in there. We have an as-built plan from Harold L. Eaton and Associates, August 19th of 2003.
Wow. I don't know where it's hiding. Okay,
And it went into some detail. Now, this, I think, is not the final one. I'll send this to you, Randy.
okay, please, thank you. I don't know where it's living in my computer, but not easily found the other day.
Okay,
Jim, can I just make a historical perspective? I'm
Yeah.
sure there are people listening in that may think this is totally incompetent, but this will not happen again in the town of Hadley because the subdivision regulations have changed. In the past, that if the road was put into the satisfaction, we were forced to abandon any lots we were holding in escrow or any financial bucks we will be holding in escrow. We have to release everything. Now, we will not release that last lot or the monies until the town has accepted the road. So that's the change in the subdivision regulations, and hopefully this will not happen again. But anything we can do to help expedite John Sibley, because I know he's trying to sell his house, and the buyer would prefer to have a house on an approved subdivision or approved road by the town.
so there is another problem, and we are bringing town council in to work on this, and that is the question of who owns the road.
right.
You
The bank,
can't just accept it because you want it accepted. We have to either accept it from the owner or take it from the owner by eminent domain.
Yep.
And This is a situation where the original developer went bankrupt. Someone bought out their interests, finished the subdivision. And it was an LLC, as I recall, and it was subsequently dissolved without ever coming to town meeting and asking the town to accept the road. So we have brought in town council on this. As it turns out, we have another one with the same issues. Very similar pattern that the LLC sold all the land and then disappeared, still owning the roadway. So there's going to have to be some title work done to find out who we are taking the property from.
In your conversation with town council, Bill, is the derelict fee statute going to come into play?
It might, in which case derelict fee statute says, depending on how your deeds were written, I have to look at each one to verify it. Some deeds are written in such a way that they appear to give you ownership to the center line of the street. And other deeds are written in such a way that the owner expressly reserves the layout of the street for themselves. And in this case, there would be a need to check. We might find that we're taking the layout of the road from you individually, or we're taking several 100 feet of it from some other entity. And that's all going to have to be worked out lot by lot. It's not a huge task. It is a tedious one. And I don't happen to know, without looking at your deeds, how tidy the attorney who worked for the various developers was.
Jim, can we get to our records, or are we still frozen out of our?
We have limited access. I think what we would find in there is, I believe that when we released the covenant, we did have some confirmation from the a site professional on behalf of the developer that the road had been built to subdivision standards.
But one of the information that Bill referenced, Joe, as far as who owns the road, or in other words, who owns the road.
Yeah.
I'm going to guess in this particular case that the developer owned the road, but I'm not going to guarantee it.
Yeah, we would not, we want to be very, we just have to be careful to do it the right way, or it's, let's see.
And does what I saw look more like a layout design plan, but that could function as an as-built?
It's identified as an as-built, yes.
It is, okay. Oh, that guy Randall's good.
Mr. Isaac, do a little digging here.
Yeah, I guess. And I will see Mr. McCarthy tomorrow and talk to him. Do you know, Jimmy, was he around when that?
He was not.
excavation-
He has no memory of it. I did ask him if he would confirm with some of the old timers, and he did say he would reach out to Dennis, who has
Okay.
certainly had been there at the time and would have been involved because of his connection to the sewer system at the time. This is a retired employee of the DPW, but he would have a more specific memory than we do.
There be an incident report anywhere with DigSafe or anything like that?
I have no idea what kind of records they keep and how far back they go.
Well, if there's electricity under the road in a bad place, that should be relatively easy to nail down. And the water lines should be, I mean, we've located a bunch of water gates. So that should indicate where the water lines are. So it would be nice to know what the issue was as to what got dug up that wasn't supposed to be where it was.
I think it was a television cable line, Randy.
Okay, well, that, again, that should be relatively easy to nail down.
So it may just be, involve someone going out and spot checking the
That's one, right?
the as-built.
Yeah,
But see if you could get, what Scott told me was that the as-built that is on their server is too big to email. But you can take a flash drive over and they can download it to you.
yeah, well, if he's got it, I better have it. It's got my name on it, so I better have it somewhere.
Well, he better be sure that the one he sent me has your name on it, but I'm not sure that that's the one he was referring to that was too big to, that probably wasn't the one that was too big to email.
Okay, all right, I'll talk to him tomorrow. And then I've talked to John Sibley about this. He knows that this has to go before town meeting in order to get finalized once all the criteria have been met to satisfy the planning board and the DPW director.
Sounds like someone needs to get an attorney to look at the different clauses of the deeds.
Well, it's pretty simple, Mark. I can look at them and figure it out, and I can advise John accordingly.
Okay.
It's a deed has to be written very specifically in order to exclude the road. So my guess is that they were written as that they didn't exclude the road specifically. That's usually what happens, but I'll verify that.
So if it didn't exclude the road, then that means that each one by the derelict fees would own the road out to the center line, and then you'd need to like create a.
So for every 175 feet of frontage, we would be taking property from either accepting a transfer from two separate property owners or doing a taking from two people. And then move down the next two lots. Are we taking, basically, I forget how many lots there are in there, but let's say there are 12. So we're either doing 12 separate takings or we're doing one taking with that's not sending someone out to hire a lawyer to look into this on their own behalf quite yet, until we have a better sense of what kind of a problem it is, and then involve town council in it. Because they may have to order a title search of some sort it would be best if it was managed through town council, I believe, at this point. The extent that some of you have lawyers involved, you've identified that there is a problem. And we are aware of it. We're working to see what we can do to get rid of it. There may be a need to, and Randy would probably be able to better inform you. We may need to either be probably better for you to, as the property owners, to if there's some need to go out with metal detectors and find out where the pipes actually are, it might be better for you to work through Randy and front the cost of whatever is going to be needed to verify the validity of the as-built plan. I think that would probably be more helpful than trying to worry about getting a title search done at this point.
Mr. Dwyer, who would be the one to reserve a spot on the town warrant for this if they're trying to get it into?
The town administrator would, because again, for the reasons I said, because we don't know who owns this. This really isn't a citizen petition to accept the road. This, you're flagging it as a problem that we have to address, but it really is the town's issue at this point. I did speak with the town administrator last week, and I believe that she was going to put a placeholder article on the warrant. I believe the warrant is going to open at tomorrow's select board meeting and remain open for roughly 6 weeks. I think it'd be closed sometime in February, but there will be a placeholder for this. But what it will look like, we don't know yet.
Is there anything we can do as residents to help this along? Do you need us to do anything?
Just a question. On your deed, do you know if you own to the edge of the road or to the center of the road?
Mine says right to the edge of the road. Randy
Well,
did mine very clearly.
Yeah,
No, but-
that's the problem.
It's gotta say specifically excluding the road. Every deed, or typically every deed is written based on the plans that are done, which show the property line going to the edge of the road.
Mhm.
But the law says if your deed says to the road and it doesn't exclude the road in specific language, you go to the middle.
Okay.
So,
And I-
Mr. Sibley, give me, I'm at the registry of deeds. Give me your first name,
John,
John.
He has, Bill, he has no frontage on Birch Meadow.
Oh, okay, that's right.
He's a flag lot off of Rocky Hill Road. So look up Keith's deed.
Who's that?
Ronald Keith. And he's a land baron. You're gonna find stuff all over the county in his name.
That's why I'm constraining it to Grantee Hadley D. Shipman Farm.
Thank you, Randy.
Birch Meadow. Okay, let's see what we got here. And it does, let me, if I can share that. So here it says, beginning at a point northwesterly side of lot 13, then northerly along the roadway, 175. Subject to restrictive covenants, drainage easement, rights of egress, and driveway easement, utility easement, and being a portion. And the next page is approval of your design. So that did not exclude the road. You own 175 feet. You own to the center line of the road for 175 feet.
Yeah, subject to the easement for everybody to use it.
Yeah, subject to the, it's not something, you can't keep people off, but you are the person that piece of the roadway would have to be taken from you. Which you would love to have us do, because it's a lot easier than taking care of the road yourself.
All this time, you could have been putting a toll booth out there charging a toll and you didn't know it.
Did we donate it to the town for a fee on taxes?
You got to be careful because you're going to end up like John when you go to sell your house.
I know. Well, the whole neighborhood came together on this, Randy, as you know, because a lot of us were under the impression the road was accepted several years ago when we went through this originally. So nobody wants the road. All the neighbors want to get it straightened out. We've all talked to each other about it. So now it's just up to the town.
Okay, well, I'll do what I can do as far as the as-built goes, and then I'm sure everybody else will be more than willing to expedite this as quickly as possible, subject to the fact that it's got to go before town meeting. So hopefully we can get everything squared away by then.
This is John Beat and Preeti Shah from 9 Birch Meadow. And if there's anything that we should be doing here at Birch Meadow that could help move this forward, please do let us know.
Certainly.
Something that you could do is to have all your neighbors on the street understand the predicament that you're in, so that it's not a surprise to anybody when they come looking to essentially take a piece of your property, but you're only giving up the road, so that they understand that the town is coming after the road for the purpose of taking it.
Yes.
Okay.
And encourage everyone on the street to attend town meeting when it comes up.
All right, we can work on that.
Yes.
And vote early and often.
So,
Okay.
okay.
You good, John?
Think so.
Thank you.
I've got my orders.
Yes.
For the people that are on, don't hesitate we have a planning board meeting the first and third Tuesday of every month. And the agendas are on Zoom and are on the town clerk's website. And if you have questions, you want to find out, you can stop in at the 6:30 portion of the meeting and ask a question, how's progress? So, don't be afraid to do that.
Okay, sounds good.
We'll do that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your help.
Next, Mr. Dwyer.
Let's see. I had Kishore Parmar on, but he seems to no longer be with us. And Randy's iPad, but you didn't have anything else, did you?
No, I did not.
Okay. And then I have W. Kyle Fennell.
No new business for me, just attending to hear from Mr. Comia.
Oh, okay.
Okay. That would be. Mr.
Then
Smith.
we have the vote on the, what is it? 3 Russell Street,
3 Russell, 13 Russell.
13 Russell.
The Triangle Properties,
Yes.
the
Mr. Squire.
Honorable Jeff Squire.
We are here. Good evening, everyone. And Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, right?
Happy New Year.
So this has been kicking around for a while. We had been stalled waiting for ZBA variance, which was granted sometime in the middle of last month or so by the ZBA. And so with that, I can show you the plans as they've been updated and go from there. So these have been updated. I've got today's date on there just for the record, so that everything's fresh. But again, this is that triangular property at the corner of Russell Street and Bay Road. The Pride Station is off to the right here. The previous plan had anticipated had shown a curb cut off of Route 9, and that was there was some concern to the board, understandably, and so it has been revised to show that second curb cut or that curb cut being closed on Route 9 and a second in only curb cut on Bay Road in this location, roughly about 114 feet from the end of the property, the end of that island out here at the corner of the street. But this would provide an entrance in, allow cars to come in, park if they want, but primarily for the drive-through access. This lengthens the stacking lane so that folks can get into the site and have plenty of room to stack, order, and then would exit back out onto Bay Road and to the intersection further down the street. I think the only other piece to this that we had shown in a previous discussion was leaving this entrance open, but utilizing some sort of turf paver like this. This was requested by the fire department in the event that they needed to pass through the site and have access directly into the site. This road configuration, this lane configuration wasn't really satisfactory to them. So this was a compromise that would offer, just emergency access. It wouldn't be utilized as a everyday, entrance or exit on or into the property. So it's primarily there just for emergency access. And I think everything else on the site is relatively the same as what we had shown previously. It's a renovated building in the existing footprint location. The variance was for the small exterior stairs. That provide access to the second floor, which is just for storage. There's a small deck in the back of the property as well for visitors should they want to get out of the car and have a cup of coffee back there. But otherwise, it's that's the bulk of the changes to the site. The grading and drainage that was previously shown still exists where there's currently no stormwater controls on the site now. So what we are proposing as a way to help mitigate some of those stormwater flows and also deal with any concerns about compensatory storage is provide these depressions in these green areas and along the street there, help capture and infiltrate as much water as we can from the site before it gets onto the street. But at least this provides some stormwater attenuation above and beyond what's there now, given the limitations that we have. Again, I think these two spaces on the north side of the building are just for employee parking, so those wouldn't be utilized very often. Primarily, traffic will enter in this curb cut, circulate through the site. There's ordering. There'd be an ordering intercom. However that works, somewhere in this location, it'd circulate around and then exit back out onto Bay Road, as I mentioned. What else? I think there are some elevations of the building that we had shown that haven't changed at all. Again, this is looking at the building. This is the west elevation. The drive-through window, pickup window would be here. Entrance to the building is on the right side. You can see the stairs to the upper floor storage area on the right here. Also visible on this end elevation. But this would be an independent coffee shop. They have no plans right now to pursue a larger chain. I'm not sure if they've got the specifics to the sign and some of the color details necessarily figured out yet. It was really just getting through these permitting hurdles first before developing a tenant that might occupy this space. I don't think there's too much else to present. It's a pretty simple, small site. But again, we were primarily waiting for that variance request, which was approved the middle of December or so.
Jeff, is there any way in the pavers that you show the example at the upper right?
Yep.
Is that going to pretty much just support grass, or is there any way you could put something, something that might grow 12 to 18 inches high that would just act as a visual barrier to discourage any public cars from entering in there, but wouldn't stop a
Sure.
from?
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly some grass species, blue stem, some other species come to mind that, do grow, 14, 16 feet tall if left to grow. That certainly could be planted rather than regular lawn seed. I think in many ways that may even offer a better a better material than lawn grass anyway, than fescues or Kentucky bluegrass, just because of the dry nature of that, the site. Some of the blue stems or some of the native prairie grasses, are accustomed to sort of the drought conditions, and
You
certainly
said-
get taller than a typical lawn grass. So that certainly would be an option, and that would actually blend in with the native grass plantings and meadow plantings that are proposed on the west side of the site.
I would just amend,
Sure.
I think you meant inches and you said feet. You said they grow to 14.
Oh, I'm sorry, inches, yes. Yes.
That would be a
Don't
very,
want to obscure the building.
We have a high clearance for fire, high ground clearance fire truck.
Right.
Jeff, are you gonna put some signs like not an entrance, not an exit, so people will know not to use that?
There, in this location, we
Yeah.
certainly can. Yeah, we hadn't proposed any, but if,
and on Bay Road, you'd have a enter only and exit only.
exactly, yes.
And it looks like is the welcome to Hadley sign gone?
We did remove that just because it was on town property and recognized that there was one directly across the street.
Yeah. Okay, I think the not an entrance, not an exit, depending which way you're going would probably be a good idea, so people, try to discourage it from using that as much as possible.
Absolutely. No, I think that makes a lot of sense.
Okay,
In the absence of Mr. Sarsinski, I'll make some humor and say, where's your Verizon wireless tower?
I mean, all things considered, I guess for the site, that's about as good as it's gonna get.
Yeah, no, I think it's good. And thank you for responding to all of our concerns.
Oh, absolutely.
And the ZBA approved your stair being closer to Bay Road?
Yes, they did. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, given that there was only 0.2 of a square foot of land that was outside of the setbacks, they were amenable.
And remind me, you're reducing the existing impervious considerably, right?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what the percentage decrease in is, but right now, this entire site is impervious.
Right. No, this looks,
So the canopy is gone.
The
Yeah.
canopy is gone in the proposed site, yes.
oh darn.
Unless you want to put the cell tower there.
Or a solar canopy, right?
Right.
Not much room for a solar canopy, I'm sorry.
No, that's my other employer. I'm sorry, strike that.
Any other questions, comments? Hearing none? Mr. Dwyer,
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the application for site plan approval. Based upon the following findings, project satisfies the general purposes of the bylaw, not detrimental to the established or future character of the neighborhood. Intended use is not prohibited by the terms of the bylaw. The work will be conducted in accordance with the plan dated today. Would you please be sure that I get a copy of the final plan?
Absolutely.
With the addition of not an exit and not an entrance respectively, signage to the emergency access. And use high grass. If possible.
signs and building color to be determined once you get a tenant?
Yes.
And
Everything's
that
been,
sign on the building, is that gonna have externally lit?
There are no plans currently, but again, if there's changes to that, we would come before you.
okay, so we're gonna say the design features are an integral part. They'll everything will be installed as shown. For the moment, it's approved only as a coffee shop drive-through. No sign detail or final color scheme has been provided. This will be required to be approved by the planning board before final construction. Landscaping installed and maintained per the plans, outdoor lighting shielded. No storage trailers, shipping containers, or any other storage facility not shown This approval does not excuse project from compliance with any other provisions of the Hadley zoning bylaw not specifically addressed herein, subject to approval of other boards if and as required. And any changes required by other boards must be approved by the planning board. There'll be a pre-construction conference with the project coordination group. And project will be reviewed for compliance by an independent consultant on behalf of the planning board upon completion. That's it.
Okay. That is the motion.
I would second.
Motion second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 4-0 with one absent, Mr. Sarzinski absent.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Jeff.
All right.
Good
Have a
job.
good night.
They're calling me up. Finally.
Hi, board.
Happy New Year.
Happy
Same
New
to
Year.
you. Same to you. And I'd like to just introduce you to my colleague at PVPC who started today, Kyle Bennell. So he was the one that you addressed earlier. But
Okay.
he's here to observe and learn about what we do here. So I think where we left off and what I provided for the board last week was a couple of things. It was to talk about the affordable housing payment in lieu of. That's one thing. The other item was the special events / agritourism zoning bylaw amendment and proposed draft. And the third thing was just the incorporation of the common permits matrix. I'm still waiting for comments from the building department, as I know that I did share with Dee Dee and Tom, and they wanted to review that. So with that said, that's where what the board has, what I delivered to the board last week. I don't know if the board has had any additional thought with regards to the affordable housing payment in lieu of. I think I provided the board where you left off with regards to some of that language. Let me see if I can open it.
I have to confess, Ken, that
Yeah.
you did your homework after our last meeting, and I did not take my planning board phone with me on vacation, so I have
That's
not
fair.
reviewed. I saw all the links, but I have not looked at them. I'm like, uh-oh.
Sure. So, with that said, and the thing is, Mark, you've
So you-
seen, for the most part, all of these documents in the past.
Yeah.
It probably was more of a refresher for you.
Oh, I saw you had Ipswich and you had some other examples.
There was an additional resource that I included there.
Shrewsbury.
Yeah, let me just find that. Shrewsbury is what we talked about I recall talking about Shrewsbury because one of the questions that I believe the board had was, what have they done? Because I found some of that information through their housing production plan. What has the Affordable Housing Trust, how they have allocated and spent out those funds? And I think that was as the board looked at specifically how to utilize the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. So that's a question for another time, but I think what the board really wants to take away or wants to probably take a look further into is how to navigate regulations, as the attorney from the last call or the last planning board meeting did suggest that that development was going to pursue that particular clause in your zoning bylaw. And absent a regulation, I think the reliance will be on your past precedent, understanding that you've done that with the East Street Commons and how you've navigated that. But I also know that this is important to the board. So I guess, where we start is have in the follow-up since the last meeting, are there some additional questions or are there some additional maybe things that we need to be thinking about for the purposes of the planning board scheduling a public hearing to determine what that regulation may look like?
So I came across one interesting note in one of the resources you provided about what the requirements of DHCD are for putting a unit on the inventory.
Mm-hmm.
And I can follow up on that myself, I'm sure, but I think that really goes to the question that was raised about we've heard in general that a unit is a unit. So a studio apartment would qualify, but I think it's necessary to check out whether this particular one that is on the table would qualify even. So that's something I will take a look at. But I also just had a concern that we were kind of going around sort of talking apples and oranges, because if a unit's a unit, we spent a lot of time talking about what the equivalence would be for not having to build a 4-bedroom ranch or a 3-bedroom ranch. But that's completely different than the conversion of a studio apartment. So it seems like there should be, unless we're going to say that you have to give, unless we better defined, and I think some of the towns did define in much more detail what the affordable unit was going to look like. We don't have that level of detail in our bylaw. So I think we either have to have it or we have to have some different, maybe different formulas for whether we're talking about houses or apartments.
Bill, I kind of agree with you. It seems like we're well-intentioned, well-meaning board, and we're trying to make sure that we do not get below the 10% threshold. So we have the three options, the building offsite, as you just alluded to. You have the in lieu of building, give us some money for the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, or you can build a house on site that's affordable. The only thing that makes it easier now for the developer is the donation of the money to Affordable Housing Trust Fund, but it seems like we're falling back. We're almost at 10.7%, where we were once at 13%. So we've got this big pile of money. We don't know what to do with it. And the money is losing its value too, because all these, if this is going to build an apartment or a house, and from this Affordable Housing Trust Fund, it has to be compliant with the rules and regulations of the prevailing wage. So I don't see us really making any progress. I mean, we've got to come up with something. So we're giving the three choices, but it's not helping us as a town. It's helping the developers. Oh yeah, we'll give you a few bucks. And now they're talking, this latest one we had presented, that was almost like a nothing gift. So those are my editorial comments.
I'm also mindful that we have burned an awful lot of time and Ken's efforts and our collective efforts on the only project that has come before us in the life of the inclusionary zoning. This is the only subdivision that's triggered it.
In the old subdivision, then we had the East Street Commons, of course.
Well, that's true, but that came in under a different path. I'm just,
Yes, it did, but nevertheless, those really skewed our numbers dramatically.
well,
Okay,
it's actually better than you're mentioning. We're still 13 to 14%.
No,
We,
Jim said 10.7.
11.9% we are at. Is that right, Ken? By your 2020 census?
I believe so. It has declined, and I think Joe may be looking at what may be sunsetting at the end of 2023, assuming that the planning board will have that discussion with that developer.
Yeah.
That might be where the number comes from, but on the housing production plan, which I just got comments from the state that said it's ready to go.
Well, Ken, is there any way we can start the negotiation with the people from Mountain View Apartments?
that's not really for us to
No,
discuss.
but all of a sudden, it's gonna get, it'll
I
come
know,
out.
but
They'll
it's,
spring it on us and we will have no choice. And we're still holding this pile of money.
It's not it's not us to do it, but we need to talk to the town administrator and be part of the party discussing this.
So,
Thank
I mean, I think one of the things too, if I recall, and the board was also looking at amending the inclusionary zoning bylaw, where you were possibly taking a look at developments less than 6, I think, and I know there were some examples provided on the Cape. And I believe I sent to you a bylaw that was passed in the town of Sherborne in 2020 that basically does that, where if you have any project where there's 2 to 5 units in a housing development, it requires a payment in lieu. But 6 and over requires 15% on site. So that, and then obviously you probably are going to build some flexibility into that. But that was something that I identified as something that you've been looking at as well. Whether or not it's for this conversation or for a future one, this is it is related with regard to this, how you're going to be paying, or how a developer may pay into a fund based on the amount of housing that they're creating, market rate.
Ken, one of the concerns we have is that if all of a sudden, and this used to be an older concern now, if we have a lot of apartment units, we're going to get a lot of children in, we're going to have to expand our school, it's going to be costly. Yet the people who are not complaining the most, but are requesting the most relief are the people that are 65 and older. So the town of Sunderland put in 43 units, limited to not 55 and older, 65 and older housing. I talked to the selectman who kind of spearheaded that, and he said not only are they building 43 apartments for 65 and older, but they're also taking care of all the paperwork, and the town will have nothing to do with it. So that seems almost better than making these extraordinary, complicated issues. So,
well, that's a conversation we probably should have with the school superintendent at some point, because you talk about an influx of students, yet whenever you go over there for a basketball game, what used to be the senior hallway between the cafeteria and the gym, they're all locked off.
Exactly right. You're right. Good point.
There's a cable through every locker there.
Yep. So you're right. That straw man has gone away.
Yeah, I think there's a point, and this is a discussion for another day, but there's a point at which we actually need more students to justify the staffing level we're at. And then there's a point you go one extra student, and all of a sudden you have to hire another teacher. So it's a balancing game, but
I just had to get that out there so we could consider it, and
I quickly took a look at what you were talking about, Joe, and Sunderland, it's called Sunderland Sanderson Place. And it's
that's the
affordable
one
rentals.
on Main Street, almost right in the center of town.
I believe so. It doesn't have an address.
Blue Heron.
That's not the one on Plumtree Road, the big project.
Oh, okay.
Because there's a big red 3 or 4 story one.
Main Street.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's, it looks like that was a affordable housing development that was developed by the county, Franklin County Regional Housing and Development Authority. And they're managing that, as you mentioned, all of the administration of the affordability factors.
Yes.
That's something that definitely can be discussed if you are taking a look at how to move forward with housing development. But yeah.
Does it say 65 and older?
It says property type affordable rental senior 62 plus.
62 plus. Well, that's addressing the issue that we hear most people complain about.
Yeah.
In town. Okay, I'll keep quiet for a while, so.
Okay. Ken. So,
Yeah, I guess, the question for the board is where do we move from here, or where does the board want to move from here? You have and I don't know if Mike was going to provide some additional context for spelling out an additional calculation based on the numbers that were provided in that example. Or if the board wanted to move in another direction, establishing a one, like a fee, something that would be consistent every time. And that would allow the board to, I think, identify the fact that they can review this every year. It's a regulation, right? So if you were to want to change it, you could do so. It's trying to figure out where you may be wanting to move with regards to setting the in lieu of fee, if it's specific to the affordable, and this was an example, or this was a resource that I shared. It was from the inclusionaryhousing.org. The affordability gap method, where the in lieu fee is based on the typical difference in price or rent between market rate and affordable units. For example, if a typical market rate home is sold for $300,000 and the affordable price was $200,000, the fee would be $100,000. Or the production cost method, which is similar to how you were establishing those based on the calculations that you worked on earlier this winter.
Those are good numbers. Thank you. And so they don't go to waste, and you'll have to recalculate them for Mike. Send him the email.
Yeah, well, yeah, I sent the board the email, so Mike should have that. But it is, I think this is what we were kind of struggling with in the initial early last year, was how to establish that.
Can you repeat again the numbers? Let's say a house and a lot sell for 300,000.
Here, I will, let me open this for you. I'll share the screen.
Those houses there are selling for.
So this is from inclusionary housing, and these were the two that resource had provided. affordability gap method or the production costs method. And obviously you're going to have to calculate what that affordable price will look like based on numbers from HUD annually. But also probably look at what a typical market rate home sold and try to find out how to calculate that. If that's based on average price, if that's based on another, like average price over the year, or if that's based on something else. I think the affordable price will be easier to calculate based on those numbers are already standardized by HUD and the Department of Housing and Community Development every year. And you just do the difference. It's coming up with that, what a typical market rate home would be, because I think in Hadley that might be a lot. And then you subtract what the affordable price is, it's going to be more than 100,000.
Exactly right, because you threw out those numbers, and I mean, they were looking at a very low number at the last meeting. If you hear 100,000, they're going to have heartburn, but that's even low according to the formula just quoted. So it's going to be a tough sell. So
yeah, I mean, we're going to have to make some tough decisions when we meet for our next meeting. We're going to have some serious discussion about how we're going to do this, because right now housing costs, building a house right now is ridiculously expensive, and they're selling for gold. They're selling for houses right now are selling for about $400 per square foot. That's what a new house is going for. Just a few years ago, that price was 150.
Yeah.
And to, you know, I don't know the answer. I'm not even going to propose anything right here. But when we have our meeting that we want to discuss it, and I think we said we want to discuss it at our next meeting in January.
On the 17th.
We setting this fee, and it's, I mean, it's going to come out to be, depending what method we use, it's probably going to be extremely expensive. Well, the thing, our fallback is, if it's too expensive, then do one of the other two methods to the developer. You know, rent an apartment at an affordable rate is probably going to be the biggest a pain, but it will probably be the least cost to them.
because you're right, we're talking, Jim, and we're making houses more affordable. Actually, so never mind the spade-toed frog and the spotted turtle that they alluded to in their presentation.
Yeah, I mean, right. I mean, houses in Hadley right now, a new house is selling for a 2,000 square foot house is selling for over $800,000.
I thought the
Existing homes are selling for 500 to $1 million. So, and we're not unique. The whole area, Emerson, Hadley, and Northampton are like that. It's just insane. Rents, the new studio apartments, you know, at the corner of University Drive, across from almost from the Ginger Garden.
Yep.
A studio apartment, $1,900 a month.
Rent?
Rent.
That's the one, okay.
That's the one that Barry just built.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay.
That's almost as much as I was paying for a single family house with 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms.
Exactly. And that's the starting price, and it goes up from there.
You must be one great negotiator.
Who?
Mark.
Oh. That was years ago. He was paying that.
No, I was, yeah, I think it was jumping up. That was the house I was renting for the last 4 years on Highland. But
Okay.
So yeah.
But Ken, you feel our dilemma or our, not our pain, but our dilemma.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, your community is definitely the cost of housing. And if you're relating it to that, is going to create that large amount. Because that's what the market is dictating in Hadley at the moment. I think the Ipswich example that I provided, it's a regulation, and they have an interesting an approach which is both for ownership and rentals. Let me quickly share that. But you know, obviously, it's clear here the town prefers to have affordable units created rather than accept payments in lieu. But there are particulars that are established based at the time of when these regulations are amended every year. And so the town had established that the planning board has estimated these subsidy amounts or deemed costs based on market rate home price and rent data and on affordable home prices and rents as dictated by the 40B statute and regulations. 182,500 for sales units and 70,000 for rental units. But they spell out what the requirements are. Obviously, this is based on their zoning bylaw, which it's clear here that you would see it's over 6 based on both. But this might be something of a way that it's presented if this is an option. But I think at the end of the day, you're still going to have a challenge in working with the developers who really want to pay in lieu of rather than develop on site or even elsewhere in town. I know that just because of the current price of housing in Hampshire County in general. So I think many communities rely on past precedent, and I think it was clear that that particular instance that was the case. Suggestion that you and I think the board, one of the board members suggested utilizing or relying on that past precedent. The draft does suggest that $60,000 is the at least, like that's the least amount for a equivalent, a payment in lieu of unit, based on that 2021 early 2021 document. That's where we left off with regards to the regulation that the board was looking at. So yeah, it's providing you context as much as I can and following up maybe with communities. I think this is the hard part. The next part will be, as Joe identified, and as I'm sure town committees are identifying, is okay, so how does the Affordable Housing Trust Fund get spent? And that's also a responsibility of the planning board. So, you know, you go from there. But yeah.
I think the piece we didn't have when we adopted the inclusionary zoning was what we've been hearing from affordable housing professionals, that you get more bang for your buck by keeping house properties on the inventory versus trying to add them to the inventory. And it makes good press to be out swinging a hammer for Habitat for Humanity, but that's a drop in the bucket compared to the 78 affordable units at whatever.
Mountain View.
Yes,
Well,
Mountain View.
Mountain View Apartments coming off in 23, 24.
23, I think.
23, March 23.
So that's not the 78. That's across the street,
That's
but that's
27.
27.
23 units, something like that.
Yep.
Yeah, then there's in roughly 10 years or 8 years, there's about 80 units that come off.
Yep.
So one of the things that we need to individually think about for our next meeting is using this payment in lieu item. Do we want to encourage a donate? In other words, we can put this payment in lieu any place we want within a reasonable or unreasonable number. Do we think we want to encourage payments to this fund so that the town can use it to leverage other items? I'm not talking about building a whole, I'm talking about leveraging to get developers to do something more, to do more affordable. And the town has some money to leverage, or do we want to discourage payments to the fund and leave it on the developers to construct affordable units or convert affordable units?
Right.
That's what it's going to come down to.
Right. So if one avenue to take is to encourage new construction subdivisions to pay in lieu of, so we can then go to retain our existing stock that's affordable, but it's not adding.
But it's going to be a difficult negotiation because they know how much money we have available in our Affordable Housing Trust Fund. So they're going to want to clean it all up for us.
Well, that's negotiation. So
that's a disadvantage of negotiating because they know your cards.
Right.
So what if they know your cards? All you're going to do is the Affordable Trust Fund trustees control the money. We don't give it to them. You're going to play hardball. You can't have it.
Well,
Okay, we're willing to do this.
They'll say, good, we gotta go market rate anyway.
But you're right, Joe. These are things we need to think about. Which way do we want to do this?
I think
Do we want
that's
to?
The other option is the petition that is probably going around. I won't even talk about that, about the Econo Lodge. Maybe
That's not even part of this. That's not part of the fund. That's the Econo Lodge. No, Joe, please. The Econo Lodge is a completely separate item.
No, but that will get us away from worrying about everything. We could take all the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. We could take in lieu of building off the table because we would have our percentage for many years to come.
But it's not going to take care of us forever.
That's not forever. It sounds like a 5-year plan in the Soviet Union.
so I think, Jim, I think that's a great suggestion. And yes. And Joe, if we don't do it now, then 10 years from now, never mind your 5-year plan, call it a 10-year plan. 10 years from now, somebody's going to have to reinvent this wheel.
Yeah.
And they won't have the benefit of our experience. Well, you'll still be there, but
Okay. I'll keep quiet for a while now.
No, well, we are the planning board. That's our title. We are planning for the future. And that's what we've got to maintain here.
If I could just add a thought, and you can correct me if I've misremembered, but I thought we heard from somewhere that the SJC has prevented affordable units from going to market rate, and that would be maybe could help us to when we negotiate.
the underlying zoning does not permit multiple family dwellings, then the developer cannot go market rate.
Yeah.
if the only reason they were allowed to exist was chapter 40B.
Right.
Okay,
And that's also where we possibly could use some of this leverage money.
right.
So what I'm saying is what I said before about, which way do we want to encourage or kind of discourage donations to this fund? And think about that one.
Yeah.
Base the fees either which way we want to go. So
Well,
something for our, something to think about for the next meeting. So anyways, thank you for your help, Ken.
Oh, of course. And I'm happy to help in any other way with regards to that.
This is probably the toughest thing we've ever had to look at for a planning board.
It's hard. There's so many legalities, and it's not, payment in lieu of is always, I think, just touchy in general, because I think the developer is out there and they're not going to develop an additional house for it. It just won't. Typically that doesn't happen. And I think that's what you're interacting with at the moment. And so it's hard. It's a hard conversation, especially if you want to make it fair. And you are taking a look at truly trying to identify how to create that affordable unit, because if they're going to pay $60,000 to the housing trust fund, that's not going to develop anything, right? So it's trying to identify what truly is the cost of development. But then as the affordable housing trust, you also are having to be mindful of the cost of construction. At the same time, what the boundaries of managing or developing a housing, affordable housing development, or working with a developer to navigate that process, that's something you kind of have to slowly be working toward, because as you identified, Jim, the cost of housing just keeps rising, and that's not going down anytime soon. So it's trying to come up with a strategy now. You have your housing production plan. You are protected based on subsidized housing inventory at the moment. And I know that there are certain things that are going on in town with regards to the sunsetting units, but yeah, it's housing is, at least for the planning board, when they're charged with that, that's hard. And it is one of the more challenging aspects of land use and land use management in town, especially if one of the responsibilities is to develop or be that trust to identify opportunities.
Seeing that housing has gone so high recently, at least in, I mean, I'm sure it's across the state, it's not just here, has the subsidy to the people increased at all for the affordable units?
So I think what I've seen, I think where we usually measure that is from what is the qualifying income level to purchase a unit. The subsidy is not related to, so a subsidy for, let's say, what people are familiar with as Section 8 mobile home vouchers. That's not typically related to subsidized housing inventory or affordable units. Affordable units are affordable to those at 60 to 80% of the area median income, and that is done through sometimes a lottery process, but at the same time a very managed process that will require you filing your income taxes and doing that documentation. So it's not necessarily related to that. The income has been fluctuating, but I don't think it is anywhere it's not, it hasn't increased to the level where it's still not being supportive. I actually probably fall in one of the area median incomes under that. So I probably could be eligible for an affordable unit based on my current income and the like. So it's, I think it's just to be mindful of that the affordable housing units, the state tries to suggest that it's affordable, but at the same time, because developers are developing those affordable units to the requirements that there are available to those that are making 60 to 80% of the area's median income, which in your case is Hadley, Springfield. You're in the Springfield metropolitan service area. So that, I mean, that's just something to be mindful of. I think the actual housing vouchers, I don't think that's increasing in any sort of exorbitant way. So it's still hard for those individuals and those that rely on the mobile vouchers to find housing.
Okay, thank you.
What if the, John Q. Public comes in and wants to develop a 7 parcel subdivision, and we say, all right, well, one of those 7 has to be affordable. Could we let them make the lots smaller as well? Because that's driving up their cost. If all of the lots have to meet the minimum.
That's currently not allowed in our bylaw.
Yeah, so that would take a bylaw.
Mark.
It'll take a bylaw change, and as noble as we want to present it for people that fall into the affordable category, the gorilla, the 500-pound gorilla in our neighborhood is the UMass students. They will scoop up all of these apartments, so it will do very little to satisfy the affordable housing for those people who really need it. So.
No, I'm just afraid that, all of our good efforts, we end up segregating the affordable off, not in my backyard, but wouldn't it be nice if we could drop one with a half a dozen of the McMansions? That would be more socially equitable. Unless you're one of the McMansion owners, you probably don't want it.
You make a good point, and some people say we really messed up the Native Americans by putting them in quote reservations. They should have been dispersed within the population. But when you move them out to the McMansions, there's no sewer out there.
I mean, there's
all right.
There's not an easy answer to this, because when we get creative, the developers get more creative.
That's true.
That's true.
We've seen that time and time again. If not, we got a great idea here, and only to find out we get shot in the back a couple of years or less down the road because of it. So we just got to keep on trying.
Always somebody scheming. Yeah.
So.
Well, it sounds aggressive for us to pursue the option of, I guess we could just take another model where you actually, Ken talked about one example where they give structured prices, whether you're going to do a 2-bedroom, 1 bathroom, or a studio, and then you're going to prorate the, then are we designing versus it's very complex.
Yeah, I don't even know if we're going to find one size fits all here. We may have to be a little bit creative and come up with a couple of different sizes to fit.
Yeah.
I don't know. So. Okay.
So on that note, the next item is how the board wants to address the special events and the agricultural tourism zoning. I know that you may be looking at approaching this for a town meeting, but I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
Matt,
Yeah.
if I had any say so, I mean, we've got something in front of us that we really have to resolve, more important than agritourism. That can easily be put off. And if something serendipity hops up, and somebody does something unusual, then maybe that's an incentive to do something, but I wouldn't put that up front and try to hustle it.
Well, I think we're there though. That's the thing.
Yeah,
that,
I disagree with you, Joe.
Okay,
We've got enough issues going on right now with farm stands getting very creative in what they're doing that are causing traffic jams and other issues, police issues, Board of Health issues, that we've got to do something. And we can't wait.
okay.
You talk, what you say, talk to the fire chief and the, and the police chief and get some input and see if they want to have us put this off. I'm on a bylaw committee, and one of the things that I'm hearing from the fire department and the police department is that one of the bylaws, call it a bylaw or zoning bylaw, that they don't want to see delayed is something to address the issues that we're seeing with some farm stands, because they're getting way too out of hand.
Like where and what? I don't.
I don't want to say it on TV.
Okay.
I'll talk to you tomorrow night at a basketball game.
All right.
Okay?
I don't see it up in North Hadley. That's what okay.
I will.
All right, I got you.
You two can have an executive session.
Yes.
I think, the thing is, and I know that the board prides itself on being fair and understanding how regulations can, and having worked with the board for a couple of years now, that you can recall certain zoning bylaws that you have put forward and have, full throat support for amending the zoning and getting it tanked at town meeting. So I think what has been proposed and is in this draft form is that these are things that are happening in town already, not necessarily requiring permitting, and whether or not that has been because there has been an interpretation of agricultural uses not creating additional impacts. I think knowing that there are agricultural uses that do create those impacts and that you're now dealing with them, there's opportunity to identify those criteria by which the planning board and or the building department would be the overseer of a permitting mechanism. So I think if you recall, let me see if I can open that. And I don't know if this is the approach that you want to move in. So, you can stop me whenever. But I think the particular item that I wanted to kind of look through was how you may want to approach amending to add agriculture related uses. So, there's obviously purpose, there's applicability, and you have these related uses that are permitted in any district, so they wouldn't necessarily come to you. However, I think I've identified a couple of various criteria which would create some additional impacts to traffic, to intensity of events that may happen on a weekend, particularly if there may be areas in town that there is a winery, or if there's interest in that kind of type of event, utilizing that. utilizing site plan approval for that. I think this is probably the biggest one. If a use rises to the occasion where you're identifying that there is a need for more than 20 or more vehicles on a site. And I think you can rely on your experience in town and having navigated an unpermitted use. And I think these are all typical, maybe some may not apply in Hadley, but this again comes from the town of Southbridge where we identify these particular uses. And this has been adopted in the zoning bylaw. The requirement for a special permit obviously is specific to unrelated agricultural uses. However, there may be the ability to, on that agricultural parcel, have something like a restaurant, or what you hear about in other communities, weddings, using venues for weddings, or some of those large traffic and impactful type of events on a given weekend. And I've seen that adopted. So this is an approach where you're spelling out the different types of things like mazes that wouldn't necessarily require any sort of over purview of the planning board or the building department, where there are certain criteria, and these can be amended in any way, where maybe the planning board may want some oversight into permitting these types of activities, or activities that would create those impacts to the neighborhood. So I rely on this for some of the agritourism conversation. And then again, identifying, if the board chooses to, looking at private event venues, which would probably be occurring on some of those very large parcels anyway. But now creating a process by which the town and the planning board has identified that parcel as one that would have these types of events, particularly these that we've identified in a new definition. Invitation only and not open to the public. Whereas this is a little different than the other one, but both somewhat related based on the additional impacts that they would be creating in the neighborhood.
That's the one I think that we need to try to get on to the annual town meeting to address. Because I know there's several of the departments in town are looking for the planning board to get something to address the issues, like I said. So,
I don't know if it's,
okay.
I'm getting your voice pixelated, Jim. Is
Yeah,
that-
my connections, I put a booster in to address that, but the problem is the computer, I have some programs on here. I think I need to upgrade Windows to the newer version because it's not recognizing the booster. It's either too fast or too powerful. But I got some antique programs on this computer, so I may have to use a different laptop for this from now on or something. I'm not quite sure.
If you need a booster, you could just put an old phone book under your seat.
Or his wallet.
I think we could talk again, probably. I know, Ken, you won't be able to be with us next time, but we can take a look at this. I'll say we had family arrive early and leave late for the holidays, so I did not get as much time to look at this as I would have hoped.
Sure.
But yeah, I like the idea of these things. We're not taking away your farm stand. You want to have a wagon out by the side of the road to sell corn, God bless. But escalating different levels and getting Yeah, just getting things on the radar so that the Board of Health knows if they should be involved, fire department knows if it should be involved, police will not be surprised to find that you have cars parked on both sides of a narrow road. Yeah, definitely, we need something. And I think either one of the models you have are a great starting point.
And we're not looking to pinch the farmer who's being creative in ways to grow income. We're just trying to make sure that they're safe and considerate of other.
If somebody has a venue once or twice a year and they have 50 cars, that's not what we're looking for. We're looking for the creative person that has venues once or twice a month all summer long that creates a nuisance that has different issues with the neighborhood. You know, it's like I'll give you an example of somebody that there's a farm in Sunderland that has a once a year fiesta fest in the fall. He probably has 200 or 300 cars, but he has parking for it. It's organized and all the parking is on his property. Okay, yeah, there's a little bit of a traffic jam when they leave and they come. I'm not going to just say that, but that's a once a year event. And if he had that twice a month, that's a different story. So next meeting, Ken, when will you want to be, are you available?
I'd be available at the first meeting in February.
Okay, yeah, Verizon's going to be in for that, but that's going to be I would anticipate that public hearing for Verizon is going to be relatively quick. There's really no, they put a couple cell towers in. It's not going to be a long drawn out thing.
February 7th, I think it was.
Yes, February 7th. Very good.
And I'll follow up with the building department so that I can get you a more formalized permitting guide, and then you can at least look at what should be the final version. But at the moment, they're still looking at it. Or
the building department has been away for.
Yeah, they won't. I'm not sure they're going to be back before the end of next week, too.
Okay, that's fair.
Okay. Okay.
And those eggs are all in one basket.
I have nothing else.
I have nothing else. Anybody have anything else?
I have nothing else.
No.
All righty. Very good. Happy New Year, everybody.
Thank you, Ken, and thank you, Kyle, for, hope you enjoyed seeing how well Ken does it.
Oh, thank you, gentlemen. And thank you for your hard work and dedication. It's a lot of challenges to work through.
Ken carries the weight for us.
No, this is the board. That's all you.
We're not boring. We are creative. And
It's a good board. I like to, when I like to brag when I talk about the various boards that I work with. I said, Hadley's doing its work. They're very dedicated. So if anything, that's what makes it enjoyable to work for the board and work with the board.
After we, just as a quickie, there's 3 members on this board, Kyle, that have combined over 100 years of planning board experience.
And I'm not one of them.
That's amazing. Amazing work.
I have 40 years and I'm only number 2 on the list. All right. Motion to adjourn?
I would make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Meeting is history. Thank you. Thank you.